Hi guys, welcome back. This is Professor Hank, and in this video, I'm going to talk to you about two types of students. Yeah, two types of students. And hopefully, we won't be so loud that we don't wake up my sleeping cat. At least I hope she's asleep. Carly. Yeah, she moved. I think she's not dead. But anyway, so a couple of students, a couple types of students, and this is something I brought up a few times during lectures of mine. Just when we're taking a little break, discussing whatever. And that is, I think there's one type of student is a student who's just there to get a grade, right? So they want to get a C, because C's get degrees. They want to move on with their lives. Maybe they're taking that computer science class because it satisfies some requirement, right? It's going to be their only programming class that they ever have to take in their entire lives. And so you can kind of understand that those are the kind of people who are going to put in a minimum effort. It'll help them a little bit because they'll get some exposure to logical thinking and what sequential thinking means, and if this is true, then that's going to happen, kind of thing. And so that's the main reason that they have it, so you can have a computer science course satisfy a prerequisite for, I don't know, a political science major or something. Because writing a computer program forces you to think a certain way and to solve a problem and to think logically. And so you can get some exposure to what it means to think logically. If this is true, then that. While this is true, we're going to do this other thing. And I'll have to do another video on this, but essentially, computer programs are like arguments or mathematical proofs. But more on that. More on that later. Anyway, so these are people who are just in there, get a grade, they want to pass, they want to move on. And if you're not a computer science major, fine. You just skim the textbook just enough so you can squeak through the class. Maybe you'll get a B or whatever, and you're good to go. You move on with your life. You never think about this stuff again. You gained a little bit implicitly, even if you don't realize it, about what it means to think logically. But you're done. Okay, fine. Then there are people who are taking the class not to get a grade, but to prepare for a career. Prepare for a career. And so those are the people who have a completely different mindset, right? The grade isn't the goal, right? So for these people, they're not just doing the minimum. Okay, it's like I tell my students all the time, I don't give you enough homework to be successful. It's not possible. If I could, I would give my computer science students 20 programming assignments a week. I give them 100, you know. But if I tried that, number one, I'd kill myself because I don't have the bandwidth to grade all that stuff, or I'd kill my graders. Number two, I'd kill the students, because my class isn't the only class that they have in the world. Number three, my students would kill me. They'd be like, "What the hell is your problem?" So it's not possible for me to be able to give you that much work, even though I'd like to. Okay, because the way that you learn to program, the way that you learn to think is by programming and by thinking. And so there's no shortcuts to that I've discovered. You just have to put the time in, you got to put the work in. And so people who are taking a computer science class, programming class for a career, they have a different mindset. They are people who aren't thinking about a grade as a means to an end or as an end by itself, right? You could think of a grade as being an evaluation of your work from somebody who is objective and who has been doing this for a while, who knows what they're doing, hopefully. That should be what you see a grade as, right? A 4.0 doesn't mean anything if you cheated your way through it. It doesn't mean squat, right? If you graduate and you don't know how to program or debug your code, or if you didn't learn anything, that GPA does not matter. It does not matter at all. Matter of fact, in the working world, most of the time, or a huge chunk of the time, most companies, they don't care about your GPA. They don't. That's more for the academic world to get you into graduate school. If you're going for a PhD or something like that, they want to know if you know what you know. It's better to have gotten like a 3.5 or a 3.6 and actually learn something than get a 4.0 and not know anything, right? So people are taking this for a career. They're getting an honest, objective evaluation of what they learned from the class, and hopefully some feedback as to where they're weak and what they need to do to improve. And also, people who are taking this for a career, they don't do the minimum. They don't do the minimum. They strive to understand why code is written the way it is, what it does, how you plan, how you think through, how you work through the process, right? How you analyze requirements, perform that requirements analysis, come up with a plan, and then you write code to specify or to satisfy the requirements that were specified for the problem. You're doing programming, you're programming extra, right? You're working on the examples and the text, you're working through them, you're hand tracing, you know what hand tracing means. You've studied those algorithms, maybe you've written them a couple different ways. Maybe you've written a solution for your homework assignment and then you've gone back and challenged yourself to rewrite it using fewer lines of code. Maybe you've looked at sample code that I've written and you go, why did he do it that way? What was the point of that? Could he have done it a different way? Let me see if I can improve on his code. Let's see if I can catch any of my professor's mistakes, right? And embarrass him. You're doing more than what's assigned. When I was a student, I would do all of the programming assignments at the ends of the chapters, right? Most of the textbooks, the popular learn to program textbooks, at least at the freshman and sophomore levels, they got problems in the back of the books. I do all of them. Normally, the professors can only assign one or two of them a week. That's where I'm at. I can only really give you one or two of them. I try to pick ones that I think are the most interesting. But when I was a student, I would do all of them. I would do all of them, and I would explain my code to a rubber duck to make sure that I understood what was happening. And I'd code the examples line by line and see how they worked. And then I would work on my own side projects for fun. I would have something that I wanted to do just to challenge myself. Right? This is what I was doing all the time. And so it's no surprise that my programming classes, A. The theory classes were a little bit tougher for me. But, if you do that, if you prepare as if, another thing you do, right? If you prepare for the class as if if you try to learn it by preparing like you had to explain to somebody else, you can't fake explaining something to somebody, right? They'll be able to tell in a second whether you know what you know or not. And so if you really want to check yourself, have a gut check to see if you really understood the material that you're supposed to learn, try explaining it to somebody. Try teaching it, right? If you can teach it to somebody, then you know what you're doing. You know what you're talking about. If you can't, then you're missing. You miss some detail. You got to go back. You got to go review. You got to fight with that material until you actually understand, until you're actually confident, right, that you can explain that material to anybody. For me, it was a rubber duck because I suffer from chronic insomnia. I can't possibly fall asleep before 5 a.m. So I got my evenings, my early mornings all to myself, which is when I do all these videos. Or explain to your cat, hey, by the way, here's the difference between prefix and postfix notation for the increment and decrement operators in C++. So, well, if you use prefix notation, then the number in the variable increases, and then the value is returned from the variable, right? If you can explain that and understand what the hell you just said, you learned what you were supposed to learn, right? And you're going to do better. If you can answer the whys, if you can answer why is this code here, why does the example do this, then you learned. You learned something, and it's a good check on yourself. You know what's going on. If all you're doing is copying code from the textbook, modifying it, throwing it together, hitting compile, and hoping it works, then emailing your professor going, I can't figure out why it doesn't run. You're not learning jack diddly squat. You're doing it wrong. You're maybe trying to get a grade. You're not going to be able to succeed with this as a career. Right? So if writing code is something that you would be doing for fun anyway, If you ever, let me give you another idea of what somebody who's doing this for a career, in my opinion, who's going to be successful. If you've lost track of time while you're coding, if the whole weekend flew by and you didn't realize it before you figured it out and turned it in, and then it made you like excited, you got that rush of euphoria when you finally figured out, you got that yes feeling, you're doing it right. You're not taking the course for a grade, you're taking it for a career, and you're going to be successful. Right? So just a couple random thoughts I had. I thought I'd share with you, just to kind of frame it. What kind of student are you going to be? What's your motivation? What's your end game? Are you doing this for a grade? If you're doing this for a grade, you're not going to learn the stuff that you need to learn. If you're doing it for a career, then you're going to learn. Right? You're going to learn it, and you're going to take it to heart, and you're going to understand. Right? Memorization is not understanding. Memorization is stupid as hell. Okay? You have to understand what you're doing and why. Okay? Why the code does what it does and why you would write that code in the first place. If you don't understand the whys, you'll never figure out the hows. Okay? So just something to think about. If you're a computer science major, take that second approach. Right? You're doing this for a career, not for a grade. If you're only taking the classes for a grade, you're going to fail. Right? Think about it. Catch you next time.